So the Borla Touring dual exhaust system with the split rear exit should be at the top of your list if you own a 15 to 18 5-liter powered F150 and you want to very easily convert your truck's factory exhaust configuration from the side exit to this very cool and retro split rear exit design. Now there are a couple of options on the site that do allow you to do this, but in the case of the Borla, this is again going to be one of the most well-built options, and it's also going to provide a modest bump in volume and tone without going overboard. Now I would give the system a solid 3 out of 5 on my loudness meter. It really opens up the 5-liter motor, but again, it doesn't take things too far. This would be a great choice if you don't want any drone in the cab whatsoever, and it would also be a great choice if you daily your truck. If you wanted to go a bit louder than this, I would check out Borla's Stinger or Borla's ATAC options. Those get a 4 out of 5 and a 5 out of 5 on my loudness meter, respectively. Now there are a lot of split rear exit catbacks available, but in the case of Borla, I would say that their quality is probably the best in the category. This system is mandrel bent. They do size everything pretty much perfectly. All the tubing slides together really well, which is certainly a huge time saver and a headache saver. I've done a lot of these installs, and Borla generally is the easiest to do. Other thing I like about Borla systems is the overall quality. They are made out of 304 stainless from end to end. That's a nice upgrade compared to the factory grade 409 stainless. You can see behind me our factory catback has some miles on it. It does have some rust and corrosion on it. That won't be the case with this 304 stainless, which is really nice if you do put your truck through a lot of mud or rain or snow. You won't have to worry about that rust or corrosion. And lastly, I want to go back to that ease of install real quick. Because of the way Borla does this setup, you actually don't have to cut into the frame. You don't have to do any custom modification to install the hangers for the tailpipes. So again, that makes this a pure bolt-on application. I would say you could actually get this done at home in the driveway in probably an hour or two with some pretty basic hand tools, just a couple of sockets and a ratchet and a little bit of elbow grease. For that reason, I'm going to give the install very easy, 1 out of 3 wrenches on my difficulty meter. I'm actually going to show you guys how to get this bolted on in just a moment. To install your new catback, you'll need the following tools: a standard drive ratchet, a 13mm socket, a 15mm socket, a 21mm socket, and a 24mm socket. Optional but helpful tools include a breaker bar for your large sockets, an exhaust hanger puller tool, a swivel socket, a cordless impact, a hammer, and spray lubricant. All right, so before we install our Borla, obviously we have to remove our factory catback. It's pretty straightforward. We can remove it as one piece. First step is unbolting the clamp in front of the resonator. To do that, you'll need a 13mm socket, and if you're using a power tool, it is a tight fit, so you might want to use a swivel. All right, now that our factory catback is unbolted, we can loosen it from the rubber isolators. There are 3 hangers in total, one in front of the muffler, one directly behind it, and one further back on the tailpipe. Once you pull those 3 hangers, go ahead and let the exhaust rest on the axle and the cross members. Take your time. You can actually pull it out from the rear of the vehicle as one piece. Now, when you pull these out, it's helpful to have either a pry bar or an exhaust hanger puller tool, as well as some spray lubricant to make it a little easier on yourself. So we have our factory catback removed, we mocked up our new system, so you guys can see how everything's supposed to fit together, and I can also point out some cool similarities and differences between the two. The similarities that I really like: the Borla system reuses your factory hanger locations, and as you can see on the flange up there in the corner, it does reuse the hardware we loosened earlier to pull our factory exhaust off. Other reason I like Borla's setup is it's pre-measured for your cabin bed length. There's no cutting required. As you can see, again, the hangers line up perfectly with our factory system. That's where the similarities end. The differences that I really like about the Borla system: again, that 304 stainless is a huge upgrade over the 409 stainless. You can see that our factory exhaust has a bit of miles on it. It's definitely developing some rust up here, especially behind the resonator in between the muffler, where there's a lot of temperature changes. It's not the case with 304. It really stands up quite well to that stuff. Even if you get it wet or you deal with road salt or snow or rain, it's not going to rust or corrode on you. And then out back, we got the nice business end here with the split rear exit. We got these really bright polished chrome tips. They are 4 inches in diameter, by the way. It's obviously a huge upgrade over what I can honestly say is kind of a dinky exhaust tip on our factory exhaust. So without further ado, let's go ahead and throw our new exhaust on, shall we? So the first step of our install is putting on our resonator and our mid pipe. You're going to be reusing the bolts that you loosened earlier, so you're going to need a 13mm socket to tighten these down later. However, for the meantime, we only want to hand tighten these. We want to keep this loose enough so that it has some play in it. It's going to make it easier when we go to fit the rest of the exhaust on. All right, with our mid pipe loosely bolted on, we can install our extension pipe. Before you throw the extension pipe onto the mid pipe, make sure you have one of the large clamps on the end here. That way you can tighten down the flared end to the mid pipe. You're also going to throw this hanger into that factory rubber isolator, so go ahead and spray that down, make it easy on yourself. All right, with our extension pipe in place, it's the same process for the muffler assembly. Go ahead and throw this hanger into that factory rubber isolator just in front of the axle. Go ahead and throw the large end of the muffler onto your extension pipe and make sure you have this other large clamp on top of it before you do so. All right, now that we have our muffler hung up and in place, we can install our tailpipes. Before we do that, we have to do a little bit of prep work. Remember those hangers I mentioned earlier? I'm going to show you guys where those go. Now, this is a very important step. You are actually loosening the bolt and nut that secure the leaf spring bushing to the frame, so you really want to take your time with this. To loosen that bolt and nut, you're going to need a 21mm socket as well as a 24mm socket with a fixed bar of some sort, kind of like my breaker bar here. What you're going to do, you're going to back the nut off of the bolt just enough to slide the bolt out, give enough room to slide that hanger in place, and then tighten it back down. Again, since this is a suspension component under load, you want to make sure you only tighten this back down all the way once the tires are on the ground and the truck's weight is on the leaf spring itself. If you tighten this down and then lower the truck on the ground, you could rip the bushing, so keep that in mind. So as you saw, I did leave this nut and bolt pretty loose. There's a little bit of play in here. We do not want to tighten that down all the way again until it's under load so you don't crack that rubber bushing. But now that our hanger's installed, you can do the same thing to the other side. Then we can actually throw our tailpipes on. Before you throw your tailpipes into that rubber isolator and on the muffler, make sure you have one of these small clamps on there so you can tighten it down later. So now that our passenger side is done, we're going to install the driver's side. The driver's side tailpipe section is in two pieces. You got this over axle pipe and then the tailpipe itself. But it's the same process. Go ahead and throw all the pipes together. Make sure you have the last of the clamps on there, and you're going to throw that tailpipe into that rubber isolator and the hanger that you installed on the driver's side, just like you did on the passenger side. All right, now that you have your driver's side tailpipe hung up, you can tighten down all your clamps. While you're tightening down your clamps, be sure to have a hand on the pipes. You can manipulate them as you tighten them down. That'll help you line up the exhaust tips. But at any rate, you'll need a 15mm socket for the clamps in the kit. And then when we get up to the flange, you'll need that same 13mm socket we used to remove those bolts on the factory cap back earlier. All right, now that our exhaust is tightened down, everything's lined up and it looks good, we're going to put our suspension under load, then we're going to tighten those nuts and bolts holding the leaf spring bushings. Again, for that you'll need that 21mm and 24mm socket. So once you got your truck on the ground and you've tightened down those nuts and bolts for the leaf spring bushings, you should be good to go. And that actually wraps up my review and install of the Borla Touring dual exhaust system with the split rear exit, fitting your 15 to 18 5-liter powered F150. I'm Travis, thanks for watching. For all things F150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.